Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to be doing something with a 4 by 6 inch piece of vellum and a 4 by 6 inch photo print. I haven't done this technique for a while, but I was trying to get the gist of it again and watch one of my previous videos where the technique was employed. And I was watching to see what ink I used on the vellum, and the ink that I used that time was the Brilliance. So the Brilliance is a fast-drying, water-based pigment ink. It's a little bit thicker, so it gives me a little bit more of a darker image on the vellum. The vellum stamps out pretty well with a lot of different inks, but it is, if you haven't worked with vellum before, it's kind of it almost feels like a piece of plastic or something like that. So you're gonna need something that's going to adhere and dry on it adequately, as well as give you a nice dark impression when it comes to our black media for stamping out our imagery with. Okay, so just to mix things up just a little bit, I'm going to, look at this, just by touching this with my hands, it's kind of hot in here right now, so just by touching it, it's my piece of vellum is bowed a little bit. But anyways, it's a pretty fun medium to work with, and I'm going to be using it with these birch trees. So the birch trees are supposed to be, you know, the characteristic of them is having that nice white bark, okay? But one of the things is that if you ever stamp these out, you have to kind of mask them out if you want something in the background so that you don't have it showing up within the trunk of the tree. But that's where this vellum comes into play, because we can stamp it out, and then what I'll do is I'll paint the back of this impression with some opaque white water-based bleed-proof white here. Hello, Linda. All right, so I don't think I've used the vellum technique. I mean, I haven't used the vellum technique in a while. So I don't think I've ever used it with the art foamies. So I thought with the art foamies, here's this version of the birch trees, and here's the rubber version. So just, you know, we'll be pushing depth a little bit more with the larger entity, and let's see how it goes. We'll be using them both in conjunction with one another to really just kind of maximize the strength of this technique right here in creating layered depth where, as I mentioned in my description, where no masking is needed. Okay, so let's see. Let's go with a couple impressions right here. And I'm going to be, we're going to be utilizing the front and back of this piece of vellum here. So that's what I had to kind of get back in my mind, is what I put on the front and what I did on the back. And then I was thinking, wait a minute, how did I get some background birch trees? And I'll show you what I'm going to do when it comes to that. All right, so some, again, really large, you know, birch trees here with the art foamies. That's another thing I have to remember here. I need to remember to be careful not to get a lot of ink on the back of this, because it's see-through, where that doesn't matter if you're, you know, we're working with typical papers, you know, where you never have to really keep that in mind. Hello, CM Hawkins. How are you, Cynthia? All right, let's see here. Let's get another one. Or I don't know, this is like a pretty dominant piece right here. Maybe I should, I don't know, just leave that open, or to have the smaller one in the back. No, let's go for, I don't know. This is like an exercise here for me, so let's go with as much layering, I don't know about it. Not necessarily as possible, but I try to create a lot of I don't know, whatever, a dense population of these trees here. See, I don't like doing things like adding like a mask and then stamping stuff in between these kind of narrow types of trees like that. I find that to be kind of a hassle. I guess if you have masks, what some people do is if they're like on a tree like this, it would be a good idea to maybe have some masks pre-cut out. Not necessarily, I don't know. I guess it could be for the foamies, but for if you have like unmounted rubber or something like that, and a lot of people, what they do is they cut out a mask to fit the objects. In this case, they would be like, you know, 2 or 3 trunks or something like that, and they just reuse the masks every time they use the image if they need the mask employed, and they just keep it with their unmounted rubber stamp. Okay, so that is stamped on the front, and as you can see, it gives a pretty dark impression. That ink is still a little bit wet there, but let's go ahead and paint them. Okay, so if you're going to paint these right here, of course, you're not going to want to paint over it with the white on the front of the vellum, right? So the beautiful thing about the vellum is that we can flip this over, so this is an completely unstamped back of the vellum. And what we'll do is we'll just take some of our paint and we'll paint over those trunks right there. And that white is going to show through on the front side. So let's do that. There might be some other white media that you can use. You might even be able to use like a white acrylic paint pen. It probably wouldn't be as opaque, but I would imagine it would work just fine. So not the 0.7 millimeter. That would be really too small, but I don't know where my white pen is, and white acrylic paint pen. This one's like a beige, but you know, like something like this. You can just kind of draw it right along that whole the length of the trunks right there. But I'd imagine they would probably work pretty well. So a lot of you have like the 2 to 3 millimeter size paint pens probably, and you can use that. I don't know if people use correctional pens anymore, but something like that would probably work really well too. But this makes the paint right here, the Dr. Martens, makes some pretty quick work of it. And what that will do is it'll block out this background that I'm going to be using that has some pretty high contrast. So I got a lot of my, I added a lot of high contrast sky prints to my collection of cloud photos. For the purpose of using them with vellum here. I was using other cloud photos that looked pretty fun, but the thing is, on most of my cloud photos, I reduced the contrast on the photos so that we can stamp right over the top of it and kind of have a more wide range of imagery that we can use in photo stamping. You know, where you wouldn't have like a super dark, you know, blue sky contrasting against a white cloud if you're trying to stamp like something like a cabin over the top of it, where, you know, you'd have that contrast showing right through the imagery. So I cut down the contrast to those ones, but that's not something that, you know, really is needed for vellum usage. If there's too little contrast in the sky, then you really can't see the whatever the sky textures anymore. So, okay, so this vellum, speaking of that, you can stamp anything you want and use any type of paper in the background. I just happen to be using the cloud photo just to... I think it looks really good. It's a good combination, but it's also just faster. But you can also stamp other imagery just on a piece of white cardstock and create extra depth. Like I could have another piece of white cardstock that this gets adhered to. You'll see what I mean by that when I get to that section of the process here. But yeah, you can just do just about anything for the vellum to adhere to. Okay, so I'm painting the trees here. And again, I'm not painting the trees, I'm painting the back of the, the impression of the trees. You don't need to be careful or anything like that or smooth because it's just used as a block out from the back. Hello, Mark and Patty, how are you? If anyone else is checking out the vid, thanks for joining in. Happy Friday to you all. All right, so you can see this is like completely bowed over right here where this, this is still wet right here. And, all right, let me not put this too close. We can see that this is now opaque birch tree trunks, and I can lay that right down. And you get all the detail of the impressions showing, because no media has been applied to it. So it just really makes for a great birch tree forest. And again, you don't have to mask those out. Now I can stamp anything I want, either on the back of the vellum or on this, and place this right over that. And the tree trunks are going to be, stark white. So, and again, I got my can of spray adhesive. I was kind of out of it for a while, so I can just use a spray adhesive on here, and then we'll marry the two surfaces together like that. Okay. All right. So, but that's not all. I mean, that could be the application of the media there. Okay, I need to watch out. I'm starting to get real smudgy here. This is real. My imagery is real wet, and I just smudged a couple things. I'll do some extra layering on there, but let's get this dried up a little bit. That the bleed-proof white dries pretty fast, but we'll give it a little bit of extra heat here to expedite the process. Hello, Jeannie. All right, that, and let's get some of this black. Oh yeah, I'm getting real smudgy here. All right, don't worry about the smudges too much because we're going to be employing a lot of color in here and layered, probably greens and yellows in here for kind of a transitioning summer to fall foliage, I would think. And we're going to have a lot of additional media and marks utilized. Okay, so that's not completely, it's almost dry in the back. The bleed-proof white dries really fast. Okay, so I want some additional trees in the background, all right? And so we have done one layer of opacity. Okay, we're dealing with kind of opacity and translucency here. The vellum is translucent. You can see through it. And the white of the Dr. Martens is a opaque white. So we're going to add another layer of trees right in the background. And we're going to stamp on the back of the vellum with the Dr. Martin applied white. I say that like that because I'm trying to explain the process right here, and I haven't really thought about the vellum process, and I don't know, it's been at least, I don't know if it's been a year. It's been months. It feels like it's been 2 years since I've done this type of thing. All right, so let's get that stamped out again. I'm wondering if I should use like a StazOn or something like that, something that's going to dry a lot faster. Okay, if I use the StazOn and I paint over it with the Dr. Martin's is water-based, so I think that might be the better way to go. Here, let's just go, because I'm going to have to paint this over. If I do it in the Brilliance right now, I'm going to have to wait for that to dry. Now, if you have time for it to dry, then do it like that. Now, I don't want to use the StazOn, though, on my art foamies, okay? I would have used it on the rubber with no problem. But I don't want to use this type of solvent ink on my art foamies. I think it would be, perhaps bad. To get that kind of fast drying thing on a foam stamp. I don't think we're supposed to use solvent inks on foam. I think it would just never come off. Hello, Don. How are you? Thanks for joining in. All right, so let's go with this. And I'm going to just stamp this wherever I want. Now, I don't want to, if I'm going to have some, like a deer in there or something like that, I don't want to block it off, but let's go right here. Like I said, I'm stamping it right over. The two trunks are going like right here, so I'm having a layered forest and no masking required. So this is it's an easy way to do this. Okay, that came out really, really light like that, but, Remember I was talking about, okay, so when I first started this, I was saying, okay, find some media that's going to show up for you. That should show up pretty good, but I don't know. I'll hold this down a little bit longer this time. Okay, let's go for another one over here. Okay, let me hold this down a little bit longer and see if I can get more of that ink to transfer. Now these trees are supposed to look like, more distant anyway, so if they stamp out lighter, then, I don't know, whatever, I guess we've got a little bit of a kind of a head start on that, kind of that, whatever, spatial depth thing going. But I just assume it stamp out darker, But if that's as dark as it gets, that's like I don't know, like a 30% gray, right? Their impression here. Sorry about that. Okay, holding down a little bit longer. Yeah, I don't know. That StazOn is really, really light on there. Okay, but see how that looks? I know that looks all cluttered there, but remember that's the back of it. This is the front right here, so you see those trees right back in there. Okay, now the thing is that we're going for that additional depth in here. So we're going to flip this over. The good thing about the StazOn ink is it's already dry. And now we're going to block out that, what will represent the background layer of birch trees, okay? So you can see where this one's stamping across the larger birch trees. That's going to not show up. You don't need to paint over anything where they've overlapped the foreground birch trees, okay? So just block out your background ones. Okay, these ones are a little bit smaller, so I'll be a little bit more careful about my application of the white here, just so I don't go outside of the birch trees. I'm going to add some down here too. I'm going to block out this whole kind of forest floor area. I didn't do it initially because I didn't know where the other trees were going to be stamped until I did it, so. And you'll see why I'm doing this when I add in the grass after. So it's kind of interesting. You see these kind of, these little leafless branches right in here. It looks like I'm painting them over right in here, but remember that ink is on the other side of this back side of the vellum here, so we're not kind of eradicating any of that. All right. Okay, I think that should be it. Or did I miss anything? Yeah, I missed a little right here. I matched up a couple of the trunks too close to where they're just like a little bit offset from one another. But yeah, so be it. Okay, let's see here. All right, this is wet again, so let's get some of that dried off. Oh, I missed that right there. Okay, I think that's it. All right, so we have 2 layers. I mean, you can do as many layers as you want. I could stamp some other trees in here now, and then block them out with the white if I wanted 3 layers of trees. Or instead of a background of these clouds right here, we can have an additional forest down here. And then this could go over the top of that, so you'd have this really deep space in there as far as trunks and kind of spatial depth. Okay. All right. It is the Dr. Martens Bleed Proof White. It's a very opaque white watercolor paint. Super fast drying. All right, so we have this right here. And just to get the gist of what this will look like, let me make sure that's really dry here. We have this going on like that. Okay. See how cool that is? And you can have anything you want in the background too. Like I said, but the clouds make some pretty quick work of it. Now that looks like snow, which would be kind of cool. I hadn't really thought about that. I was going to do this grass and kind of more spring-like. But I don't know. You can add like a little bit of snow texture down there and just those colors like that, and I think that would look pretty cool. I mean, it needs like a subject matter or something like that. I'm gonna stamp like a deer in here or something like that. But let's make it more springy, or maybe not spring, but kind of like fall tones. I want to get some color in here, just because I haven't worked with I keep with these birch trees, I have to keep switching out the papers because you can see everything underneath here, so it gets a little bit confusing for the viewers. And maybe me to be looking at it like that. Okay, let's add in some grasses right in here. And I'm going to do this now because, see, this is the area that I've blocked off in the back with the paint right here. Okay. So that part is going to be opaque, all right? I'm going to stamp these grass textures right down in here. Okay, let me think. Should I do that with the... I don't know why, the Brilliant Ink, I don't know, it seems like it's taken a while to dry. But on this, it's because You know, this isn't really a super absorbent, porous surface right here. It is somewhat porous because, you know, it does accept the inks. But let's go with the brilliance. I'm not going to be coloring this with any type of like wet media. I'm going to be using colored pencils. Okay, so on this brilliance ink, I'm going to be wiping off the edges right here because it's a really thick ink and this is a tonal stamp, just a bunch of little dots. And I don't want to get like a heavy edge to it, so sometimes I don't bother doing that. It's like, I should have wiped off the sedge filler. Again, I remember the whole idea of the vellum is to not have to do a lot of masking. I'm not going to mask these off right here, just the base of the trunks, just to stamp out my grass texture in here. And this grass texture, the sedge filler is light enough in whatever dot density to where you don't have to mask it off if it's going through objects like that. Okay. All right. So we have our grass texture like that in there. It's just something kind of subtle, but it does change it from the look of something like snow, you know, to the more textural grass. Okay. Let's move to some overhanging tree limbs, I'm thinking. I'm questioning. And let's get some additional depth of color in our scene here. Let me get this cleaned off right here. This is the birch tree small that were stamped in the background. I was watching my Halloween. If you just haven't seen the Vellum Halloween scene, you can type in Vellum Halloween Stampscapes into the YouTube search engine, search window, and it'll come up with this the skeleton scene that I did. And I think I called it Day and Night or something like that, and I think it was from a couple years ago. But just, I don't know, just watch like the 2-minute version, and that was a really fun scene. Really taking advantage of this transparent, you know, or translucent vellum surface like that. Okay, let's get some additional leaves stamped in here. I'm gonna have some of these overhanging leaves in here, but we're gonna put those, I don't know if I'll do it on the front too, but I'll have them stamped in the back. I might do the leaves one, the smaller ones here. All right, here we go. All right, let's see. I'm trying to decide what color I want to do this in. I want to do that kind of birch, kind of greenish yellow, greens and yellows. I think what I'll do is I'll put some, see, I normally work from lighter colors in the background and darker in the foreground. But on this one, it's translucent, so we can do either one. And then I'm going to work with some pens too. So this is where I kind of have to get the gist of doing this again and seeing the possibilities of the technique. I can put lighter leaves in the background, darker ones in the foreground. I can go dark in here, or not here, but here. And they do lighter ones in the foreground too, with acrylic paint pens. So I don't know, we can try it both, I guess, too. It's not usually, doesn't have to be an either or. Let's do this. Let's go with, trying to find a good green here. Let's go with the jungle green. Let me make sure that, yeah. Oh, I just stamped that out just in case I had a bunch of black ink on here still or something like that. Okay. So these are going to be background leaves. And I'm stamping this on the back of the vellum. Okay, with all the Dr. Martens bleed proof white here. And once you do like one or two of these, you get the gist of it. And but it's kind of just remembering, you know, some of the process here. Someone that I used to know, okay, they didn't do any of this like blocking out or anything like that, okay? They would use the, but they would use it for depth for sure. And that's the person that did it would, they might stamp like a cabin or something. Let's say, for example, or structure on the front of the vellum. But then for the things that were in deeply in the background, like a mountain or something like that, they would stamp the mountain in the background so that it would just look like farther off. And then what she would do is I don't know if she did it on the back and the front of the vellum, but she would just use colored pencils to color. And it really made for a really cool looking piece. And, you know, with a lot of spatial depth. And I don't know, I just took that a little bit of a step further with the opacity when I realized, oh, okay, so like the birch trees, you know, I want them nice and white, but I don't want to mask them out to stamp everything in the background using one side of a piece of paper. That, you know, to me that was always a hassle. So I never used the birch trees too much for that reason. But when I thought about the application of the vellum later on, it took me like 20 years to figure it out or put it together. Like, oh, we can just use the vellum for that, and, you know, and paint it out. That's when I started using the birch trees a lot, because I always wanted one more, you know, another layer of depth in there. Okay, so see that right there? Those are some background trees. Now everything is going to always be a little bit lighter looking, because you're looking through this, you know, this translucent surface of that imagery like that. Boy, just even that one layer of those leaves looks pretty good like that. See, like that. Let's do, okay, so I think that looks pretty good here. Let's do a layer of yellow ones, or do we want to go yellow? Maybe yellow is too light though. Oh yeah, I just realized I'm not sure if those are going to show up or not over the front of the photo. Let's take a look. Let's get the gist of the photo here. It shows up okay. They look darker, of course, because it's not a white background. We could change it up and just put it on white too. But let's stay with the stick with the original idea and work something through that. Okay, so I don't think if I go with a much lighter green in the background, I don't know if it's going to show up too much. Okay, let's try it though. Here, we're experimenting here. All right, so this one's a little bit of a lighter green. I don't know, maybe I should go with yellow or something. I don't know, I think the yellow, maybe I should just keep the yellow for the acrylic paint pens. All right, so this is like a yellow green. Let's do here. Okay. All right, that's a little bit of a hue change like that. See, when I look at this type of thing like this, it's like, okay, I need to do this again, but maybe just use like a white piece of paper in the background, you know, for this look right here. Or I could switch up too. I could switch up with the photos in the background too. You can really see the clouds really nicely with this one. But I mean, I could switch up to, you know, like a much lighter you know, photo or something like this in the background. But I don't know if I could see it. I just lost my screen here. Here we go. And I don't know, that looks a lot better, doesn't it? This one has a lot of contrast, but this just comes to show you how these birch trees can stand out against that background really, really well. Okay, but I'm starting to like those leaves, though, a lot. In those multi-tones like that. So let's go with this right here. In terms of a surface. Boy, it's getting really hot in here. I'm not sweating from nervousness. It's just, I don't know, we should be running our air conditioner or something like that. You know, I'm starting to broil. All right, let's see here. A bobcat or lynx would be good if it was a winter pick. Yeah, that would be good. Or if you're doing a winter pick in here, one of the things I'd like to see is those, like, you know, you see those photographs of those, like, red cardinals or something like that on, you know, sitting around in here somewhere in an otherwise, like, a stark white, you know, background or something like that, and that's really fun. All right. But see this right here? I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, you can do it, have anything you want in the background. It doesn't have to be a photo. The Vellum technique is not a photo stamping necessarily, you know. And see, like right here, like I said, if I had another piece of white paper, I can have some additional trees in the background. But I'm kind of leaving this area kind of wide open for, you know, some little subject matter. Maybe I'll go like this instead. Actually, oh, that one looks better. Because then what my little deer or something is going to stand out a little bit better against that background down here. With a lighter area than with the blue, like that. The blue looks like a little portal or something like that. I guess the white up here, though, the leaves stand out a little bit more. Okay, so I'm not going to go through. I have like 50 different photos. I don't want you to have to watch me going through a bunch of different photos trying to make a decision on that. So let's just go with that one. Let's stamp out our little subject matter in here. Let's go with I think I'm going to go with a deer. I think an animal in this one. You can do whatever you want. Let's see. Here's a elk. Okay, this is the one I was thinking about. I use this one a lot in my scenes. Now, here's the thing, you know, I mean, I could put this in the front and have it fairly dark, or I could stamp it on the back like this and have it more distant. I'm kind of leaning towards the back, though, I think. I think that might look better. Let's see, it goes like this. Let me see what it would look like in context. Oh, I know what I can do here. Okay, so that's that. Some of this ink here is still wet. See, one of the things you can do too with the vellum is if you want it peeking out from behind a tree, you can stamp it right in there. And of course, you know, the tree's going to block it off with the you know, the Dr. Martens in there. So, and it's kind of interesting. There's all kinds of little things, you know, that I'm not like totally back in the swing of it with the vellum whatever possibilities here. Okay, let's see. Let's put this right here. All right, I think I'm going to go with the... I don't think I want it as light as the... let me see how those birch trees looked again. I don't want them like that super light gray like that. Okay, so I'm going to go with the Brilliance. Black. And just pray that I don't smear it. Not with the impression, but just handling it, okay? I'm kind of joking when I say that, but... All right, let's go right about like here. And in my mind, I thought, okay, I am stamping it on the back of it, right? The back of the vellum, not the front. If I stamp it in the front too, it'd be fine, but it was... All right, so there it is right there. And that's deer silhouette small, and there it is, looking this way. I think it looks kind of better angled that way too, kind of peering in like that. All right, and that is going on this. I'm not setting this down because that, that deer is still wet right there. Okay, so that is that. All right, now one of the things with the vellum, it's not a great technique to show in a live thing because I have to say, okay, I'll be back in a bit, but I will be back in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spray adhesive and I'm going to spray this on the top of the card right here. You can see some of my ink is still a little bit wet somewhere around here. And we're going to get a thin coat of spray adhesive on here, and then we're going to marry these two pieces together, and I'll try to get it as straight as I can. So give me a minute here, and go get a nice cold drink for yourselves or whatever, whatever you're drinking, adult drink, hydration drink, whatever. And we'll get this sprayed up. It's probably going to be taking me like 2 minutes. All right. Let me say, or someone can write back in a minute here. Back in a minute. Spraying. Just in case anyone jumps in and think, what? This is like an instructional live stream. Okay, 3M Super 77 is what I use. There's a lot of adhesive sprays out there. I did think about getting a drink genie, but I didn't. I thought I got to get back in there. Okay, so I give it like 2 coats of very thin coats. Okay, and then what you're going to do is I kind of just eyeball this and go edge to edge. You have to kind of clean it up later on, by trimming the edges because I'm over, I don't know, whatever, 1/16 of an inch over that way or something. And then we're going to take this and I'm going to lay this down like this. And I usually go from the interior out like this and try not to move it around just in case, some of your ink is kind of wet still. Don't take this top sheet of paper and move it a little bit. So just kind of leave this nice and flat. This is easy to do on a 4x6 or standard 1/4 inch paper, but I found that if I start getting up into the half page sizes of paper, you got to watch for air bubbles in between the vellum and your background paper, whatever your two surfaces that you're marrying together, because it's hard to get that bubble out of there sometimes later on. All right, so that's how that look. See, look at that. Look how birch foresty that is. We have the the sky blocked out from the interior of the trunks in here. We have the background birch trees blocked out from the front of them. So you just layer, as with as many layers as you want to go. And one of the things about vellum is it takes colored pencils beautifully. It has that kind of that textural type of quality to them, and it's perfectly accepting of that type of soft media that the birch tree, the vellum, or the colored pencils are. I'm trying to think about some colors I want to use on here. All right, so here's some greens right here, and let's go with the birch trees. I don't like to leave like stark white or anything like that. I usually like to bring in some sort of tone into the shadows. I like blue tones in there, like subtle ones, okay? And I don't know, maybe I can, now I think about it, if I can kind of match some of the tones of that blue sky in the shadows here on the birch trees, that'd be really good, I think, in terms of kind of creating a little bit of a visual continuity. All right, so we'll take this more from snow to summer or spring or something like, or fall. But look at this. I'm looking at this right here too. This white against that grayish kind of cloud also looks good. Well, I'll have to do another one of these, but with the winter. Okay, now this is another thing too. I mean, in areas that you didn't block out too, I mean, if you wanted to, you can add in some color with your colored pencils. It could be underneath this vellum before you block it out with the white too. So that, you know what I mean? There's a lot of possibilities in terms of process and technique with vellum because of that translucent aspect of them. I'm going to have these trees kind of casting a little bit of a shadow, I think. Especially the ones in the background that are farther up on the scene. Giving me a little bit more opportunity for shadows. There. I'm working really lightly just so I can, I don't know, kind of play around with variation. We'll give that deer a bit of a shadow as well. Like that, let's go with some brighter, warmer greens right here. Layer that on. I really like the feel of colored pencils on this vellum. Okay, let me think. I think more than cardstocks and something like the printable vinyl sticker paper that I like using my colored pencils on it. I think in terms of just the feel of this, I think I like doing colored pencils on vellum more than any other paper. It's because it's kind of smooth, but it's it's textured as well. So it has a really nice kind of a kinesthetic quality to it. A little bit of a deeper green right here. Kind of leaving some areas down here a little bit light, maybe the white of the paper for some additional pigment ink applications. Okay, I'm getting the gist of it a little bit. So I'm starting off kind of with lighter applications, then I start going a little bit heavier, you know, as I see fit. A little bit brighter applications, you know, with a heavier, using heavier pressure on the papers. Yeah, it starts to bring some of those warm tones from up here down below. And you hear me talk about this all the time, but for, kind of a whatever visual continuity between areas, you have similar colors in different areas of your scene. Unless you want something to really stand out, you know, for the purpose of that, then you can just have one color kind of in one area that really brings the viewer's attention to it. Like, again, like that cardinal or something like that in, you know, snow or something like that. Okay, let's render our birch trees a little bit here. Now we can do it both. See, I can color the background ones too, and I'm not really coloring the impression because it's stamped on the back side of the vellum. So like these ones right here, these trunks right here, I can color. And let's just do, I'll just be doing like one side of the trunks. Maybe I'll just stay with that through the whole piece. I mean, we can do it more where, nah, I don't know. I guess lighting is coming from right in here though. All right. It's a little bit brighter over here in the clouds. I don't know, maybe we should do the, I'll do interior lighting. So on these trunks over here, we'll kind of go with a little bit more of a right side shading. And these trunks over here will be left side shaded, okay? I don't know, it doesn't make a big deal, but I don't know, it's just one of those fun choices, you know? Detail choices, I guess. So just go really lightly with this. Yeah, that's not really the right color that I'm seeing here, but we'll blend it a little bit more. All right, let's go in here. Let's layer that blue. See, that wasn't the exact blue that I wanted, so we'll try to achieve it through, you know, multiple tones where it just looks richer. Yeah, there we go. This is a little bit more of a, what is this? True blue, whatever that means. Now remember, we still want those white birch trees, so, or trunks. So don't color them all out. And we have this really bright kind of turquoisey one. So we'll layer it in there like so. So it gives them, you know, these trunks a little bit more in common with the light in the scene, which is like a, you know, high noon, blue sky type of light. And then I'll use the same blue down here, again, in the grassy area. It doesn't make the grass area blue, but you'll have that component of that blue in that grassy area, which gives it something in common with your tree trunks in here. It's one of those very subtle things you can do or not. I tend to think that all those little types of things that, you know, could potentially add up to, if it's not really super visible, maybe it kind of hits people on a little bit more of a subconscious level, you know, in terms of whatever, visual harmony, like that, having those similar colors in there, you know, even if they're really, really subtle. All right, when you, let's see. How's it going for everyone out there? Is it Is it still hot around? I thought it got a little bit cooler for me, but for some reason, maybe it's more humid here or something like that. This is the first time I felt like really hot in the studio here. Okay, this is black. And let's add some more shading. Look at that. See that trunk? It was really like sitting in the scene a little bit more now. Like this. And let's add it down at the base a little bit more. We really want these tree trunks to be sitting in the grass, with visual weight. So that's where shadows come into play. I've been working on new designs. I just finished they're going to be like Halloween designs. I got a bunch of tombstones. They're I don't really have too many tombstones, but I have the tombstones now that I really want in different sizes. I needed some like in the distance as well as the foreground area, not too close though. And then I have some like a haunted looking like castle church. I think 2 churches of different sizes and kind of makes. One of them's a real oh yeah, and then more like a haunted house, like a Victorian type of thing. So those should be fun to utilize. It's like as a designer, you kind of start doing the stamps that you've always kind of wanted to use, but just aren't out there, so you have to draw them. But I think I have a really good set of imagery. And then of course pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. All right, so there we go with the colored pencil in there. See that? Do you see the tinge of those colors on the birch trees? So they're just not like stark, white now. Okay, but one of the things I was mentioning is, let me see. This isn't quite the purple here. This is like a reddish purple. That's not what I want. But oh, let me see. Where are my colored pencils? I must have some more somewhere. Oh. Just like going back to kindergarten, where's my purple pencils, that were all, my purple pencils were always like used up. I want somewhere in between these two right here, but I don't know, wherever it is. So like that purple tinge goes really well with greens like that. So I'm going to add in a little bit of a hint of this pink in here too, into the shadow areas of the trunks here. Like that, all right. Again, this is really, really subtle because this is a really, really light, like a super light purple, but I'm adding it to just change that tinge of blue just slightly to a little bit more of the violet. I need to check where those are on the color wheel. I'm not sure if that's a complementary color or what. Yeah, see that little tinge right there, which might look good with some additional greens and yellows that's going to be used up in that area. Like that. All right. Hello, Denise. How are you? Coming around, Denise. I'm getting. I'm trying to get familiar with the Vellum process here again. I'm taking a look here. Oh, okay. So, I was looking right here. My piece of vellum in that background photo weren't the same size. The photos that I got, the photo prints aren't exactly 4x6. They need to be exact, but I guess they've just figured out, people are going to use them or frame them or something like that. It doesn't matter because there's always a little bit of leeway. But, yeah, vellum pieces. I'm getting, if you just joined in, I was mentioning to people that I'm kind of getting the gist of working on the vellum again. Here's a little bit of brown too. I mentioned to people that I always like using a little bit of brown in my grassy areas. So instead of just going with green, you add a little bit of brown to it, and it doesn't have to, the brown doesn't have to show up very much, but if you use that in layers over your greens, it tends to turn the greens into a little bit more of an earthy looking hue than just straight greens, okay? And we'll get a little bit of this warm brown up into our shadows as well, like so. And that adds a little bit of depth to those. Let's go in with some additional paint pen applications. Whenever I'm trailing off like that, I'm asking, as I'm saying it, I'm kind of asking myself, is that what we should do here? Or, so for me, I'm kind of juggling with the idea of if I should stamp out some additional foliage in here first, because when I use these paint pens that are kind of thick like this, thick acrylic paint, and they're big pens, they're like 3mm pens, they are raised a little bit, you know. I mean, you know, when I put a little dot down like that, it's not like this huge raised surface where it's like super textural or something like that. But if I try to stamp an image right over the top of those afterwards, it can, you know, my stamp isn't getting flush with the paper anymore. So I might be missing some impressions. So I was wondering if I should just stamp this out first, you know, some additional leaves for depth. And then with the paint pens, I could work around those impressions instead, which I think I'm going to do here. Or should I? Now that I think about it, because I'm going to stamp it out in the Brilliance. And that's going to, when I do this, okay, here, I'm going to do it in the Brilliance here. I just forgot about that. That's a thicker paint, so that should cover pretty good. All right. What I'm getting at, okay, so if I stamp this out right now, that's going to take a little bit of time for it to dry, and I don't want to be going in to wet ink with my paint pens, okay? It's going to be like smearing and everything, so let's just go to this right here. Can you do a field of flowers? You could do a field of flowers in there. That's what I use the pens are really fun for. Recovering from shingles, oh my God. Yeah. I hear those can be quite painful there, Denise. Good to hear that you are on the recovery from them, which means the worst is past, of course, right? Oh, that's perfect weather there for you, Linda. Yeah, that's much better. Stacy, I do sell it sometimes, yeah. I'm going to get ready to. I'm going to be posting a bunch of pieces up on the eBay store, or sometimes people will just ask me, they just send me an IM or something like that. Hey, I want that piece of yours. Like you know, on Facebook or something like that. Why do you like this one? It's my return to Vellum piece. Well, let's watch this one come to life though here. Okay, so these are paint pens here. Now I wish they were more opaque than they are. They look okay. So that yellow is standing out more than what it's going to stand out like when it dries. Okay, I don't know. Maybe on the Vellum it's less absorbent, so maybe it, you know, retains that kind of that shimmer. But what I'm doing here is adding in that quality that I always like seeing when I'm out amongst, you know, fall foliage, which isn't very often. But like walking in a grove of I haven't walked in. No, I guess I did. I was thinking I haven't walked around in a grove of birch trees. I don't know if they were birch trees though. There might have been some birch trees in Acadia National Park. I don't think they were though, because those ones were all like reds, and there were yellows and oranges. But nah, I don't think I saw any birch tree out there. But think about when you're walking around in that, like colored leaves, and they're backlit. It to me, it's like nature's like living stained glass or something like that, and things are kind of shimmery with light, and that's we're not doing that with the paint pens, but it's kind of, referencing at least that type of shimmer like that. So you get that variation within, that stamp form. So it just takes, a few paint pens to do. Okay, so that was yellow. Let's add in some greens into the mix here. You've been fighting it for a month. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've only known, I think I only know one person that had shingles. I probably know more that have had it, but my brother-in-law had it. It's probably been 10 years or something like that, but but he was explaining it to us. Yeah, that doesn't sound pleasant at all. I never had shingles, but I did have chicken pox. And luckily I had that when I was really young. My brother and sister both had. My older brother and sister got it at one point in time. And I think it just got passed on to me, so I got that really young. And so it passed really fast. But I've known people to have like chicken pox like in their high school years or something like that, and it was, like 10 times worse. All right, so we have some greens and yellows up in that canopy. Let's add in some additional shimmer. Down below, let's add in some of this additional. I like the yellow up here. The light green didn't really show up very much. I think it's because it's not too dissimilar from the green that I stamped out the leaves in, so it doesn't really stand out anymore. I thought it might stand out in terms of value, though. It might be a little bit lighter against those leaves, but it really wasn't, so. But you can always try it. All right, so let's put some of this kind of shimmer down here. If this was kind of like a springtime type of thing, you can add in some, we're talking about some wildflowers in here. I always do like lupin or pinks and purples down in my green grasses if it represents spring. And white. White's good. You can do it both, a white grassy floor. One of the things about the forest floor too is if you do some kind of like a I need to do another bluebells forested floor too. I really like that look. All right, so see that little kind of shimmer kind of happening down here, and it would stand to reason if this is kind of fall that, some of these leaves would be falling down here. Not that that represents that. I didn't do these dots large enough, but... Okay, let's add in a little bit more contrast. We'll leave that out just in case we want a little bit more of that. The yellows, is kind of standing out a little bit more than I thought it would up there. And again, maybe it's because the vellum. When you're doing this on a more absorbent type of paper with your paint pens, the paint pen kind of, it seems like it sits there, and then over time, as it dries, it's probably soaking into the paper, making it look more darker and less opaque. Okay. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more without this going out of focus. Okay. It's a little blurred. There we go. There's some other types of pens that are better than these ones in terms of opacity. But I've mentioned this in my other videos. The other side to that was there's a higher pigment to binder, which is water, because these are acrylic paint pens, which are water-based. And They were just sitting around for like a month and they completely crusted over and dried. So these ones are a little bit watery, but they don't clog up, you know, and dry. So, um, so I prefer that. Yeah. I prefer like usable media that doesn't break. Okay, I'm not adding too much of this because it's supposed to just represent kind of some highlighting and shimmer in there. And we're going to layer that, with some additional leaves in there too. Okay, so a little bit of highlighting down here. Maybe I should use the 0.7 millimeter for this. But I do want some, a little bit more of a, whatever, boldness to this. Okay, so, this is something I forgot about too. And it just occurred to me when I was using that white. So let's go with the white 0.7 millimeter acrylic pen, okay? And what we're going to do is, you know how we shaded one side of the tree trunks in here with a little bit of colored pencils? So if you just joined in, what I did was I used some colored pencils on the sides of some of these birch trees, okay? And I did them on one side, so it was usually on the outside of the tree trunks. If the tree trunks are on the left, then they got left side shading. The tree trunks to the right, for the most part, are right side shading, okay? So on the inside, this is white, so we're working with lightness here instead of darkness in terms of lighting. So one thing I can do is I can kind of come in here, and on the side of the tree, opposite of the shading, I'll come in here a little bit. Some of this ink is still a little bit wet. Or not wet, but I'm putting it back into solution because this is water-based, and so is the Brilliance ink that I stamped this out in. I could spray seal this and just do this and not worry about that, but let's just see if I can get what I want to get done without doing that. But see, this is what I'm doing is, you heard about, what's that type of coloring that people termed, they call it lineless, was it lineless coloring, or I forget what it was called, where you get rid of those lines. But what that, in rendering, when it comes to drawing imagery, what that does is it makes things look more three-dimensional when they're not outlined like that. And most like designs these days, they're like outlines. I try to have like, as if my designs are more tonal, but for these birch trees, I do have to have an outline for, otherwise, a white tree trunk against the background, we're not going to be able to see where the trunk ends if I don't have any lines on the outside. But I do like to minimize it now. So see, there's like this tree right here. See how it has this line on the left-hand side. I mean, it's also on the right-hand side, but that's where the shading is. So what I'm doing is I'm just going in here. I'm just kind of breaking, I don't just go like this with one whole white line, but I'm just kind of breaking it up a little bit more like this. So you can just kind of hit it here and there, but see, you can see the difference between like this trunk right here and these ones over here, and let's do the same thing on these ones. See, this one right here, I'm kind of, see, these are the background tree trunks, so I'm not going over the ink because those are stamped on the back side of the vellum. By the way, when I'm explaining all this with the vellum, I'm thinking, man, am I confusing everyone talking about the back side and the front side? These trees right here were stamped, these distant trees were stamped on the back of the vellum. I'll do like a 2-minute like time lapse video of this process, so people can check that out if you want to see it. See this right here? Kind of adding in that. See, it's like I almost got rid of that right side line on that side of the trunk right there. Okay? It's because, we have those clouds and things like that to define that edge of that tree now. Let's do the same thing on like this foreground birch tree. I'm kind of going over this one a few times because when I first went over right here, it kind of put some of that Brilliance black ink back into solution. Now these other trees were stamped on the front of the vellum. I'm starting to remember why I like vellum again here. I forgot about this part of it, you know, the additional white pigment or white acrylic ink on here. You can go in here and add in those textures like this into your colored pencil work. Now remember, these are all like little fun little things for me, but I mean, after we did that blocking out and we just kind of laid it down, I thought it looked pretty good like that, just like a snow scene without all the color too. I thought that looked pretty dynamic. So I'm gonna have to try some of that out. But these are the fun little things that I like doing in here, adding in all these little touches like that, or additional touches. Let's see. My white pen is working beautifully. A lot of paint distribution. Oh, I totally forgot about this trunk over here. All right. Now see, I didn't eradicate that tree trunk line completely. I just kind of thinned it out a little bit on that right side. And let's see, we'll get rid of it completely in a couple areas maybe. All right, see something like that. See that tree trunk looks a little bit more three-dimensional that way. All right. So there is our white paint pen work. So this look, this look right here. Again, it's one of the things about the this technique or whatever, taking advantage of the properties of vellum. You can really get some kind of fun technique usage out of it. But again, I mean, it made these birch trees like super easy to use because we're just blocking out the back of them and we don't have to do there's no masking involved. And this is a fairly layered type of surface you're using. The back of it, the front of it, and you're using opacity to get a lot of the tedium done. And for me, I'm able to spend all my time with the things that I like to do. I don't like cutting out masks and stuff like that, I'll do it if I need to. But I see that kind of as a tedious process. So I try to design the stamps where, I'm minimizing the things that I don't, really want to have to do so I can spend more time in things like details and things like that. No campfires. Yeah, there's a bunch of fires going on in California right now. One of them was started by fireworks, I guess, somewhere. I don't think they started on the 4th of July, though. It started like, I don't know. Someone had some additional fireworks, but I think a bunch of people lost their houses to that. All right, so see this, we're adding in some additional depth that's giving it a little bit more of a stronger kind of canopy up top like that. And I'm doing this in the with the Brilliance black ink because it's nice and thick. Just don't touch it. Don't touch it ever. No. You just give it, this will probably dry overnight here. I'm going to try to not to touch it too much like that. But see this, I stamped the background leaves lower, okay? And then you stamp out these foreground ones higher unless there's something that, oh man, I messed up in here, then just stamp this one lower. Yeah, to cover it up, to hide it, you know. Okay, now, before I add in, you know, potentially some, I don't know if I need to add in like foreground stuff below here. I was thinking about it, but I'm going to add in we're going to bring in some of that softer white cloud, billowy cloud element into our, I don't know if it's our foreground area, but this lower area in here, okay? And that's just white pigment ink again. And the white pigment ink will work just fine on top of this vellum. It dries just fine. Maybe don't apply it like super thick or anything like that, but it's supposed to represent just some cloudy mist or fog or something like that. But again, it's kind of a textural continuity because you have this cloud in the background, which is, you know, suspended moisture in the air being illuminated by light, and that's what this fog is going to represent. So you have it in the deep background in there, but then you also have it down here in the foreground. So it's, you know, it creates a lot of visual continuity and harmony within the scene. And plus, it just looks fun, you know, to be walking around. If you have like a little bit of mist or anything, you know, it's always kind of cool to see on the ground. Maybe not if you're in kind of, you know, London at the time of like Jack the Ripper, you know, that fog, you know, it's not that great. But for all other whatever settings, you know, pretty nice. Let's see. No line coloring. Thank you, Sharita. Now, how did you know that already, Sharita? You just started stamping here. It's usually always 80 at 8 p.m. Okay. 78 was the high yesterday. Okay, well that's, what, is it raining down your way, Chris? Yeah, I'm gonna auction off some other pieces here. I buy more supplies with it. I gotta buy a lot of like re-inkers and stuff. You know, like for my I don't know, like my Stays on White. And I need some more tumbled glass, distress ink. I need to buy like several bottles of all these things. Antique linen. I do not get these things free. I buy them like anyone else. And I don't resell, you know, like things. So it's not like I get them like cheaper or something like that. We used to deal in accessories, but I don't anymore because we don't do like shows anymore, conventions. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so a little bit of pigment ink. I need to, you know, kind of be a little bit careful about not going over some of this black ink in here too much. Now remember, this deer is stamped on the other side of the vellum, so I can go over that without any problem. You know, I'm not going to be picking up any of that black ink because it's, you know, I'm not tapping over the black ink of the deer here. So like that, and you get that kind of that fog or mist that deer is walking through. Like that. And see, it's just kind of, you know, you're just adding a little bit at a time. If you've never done this before, the thing that people find hard is that they go on here and then they go straight in here. But they're ink might be like super, super wet, so they don't dab it off enough before they go in here. But my pad is like really dry. So the way that you do it, if your pad's like super dry, is just kind of tap in here a little bit and then blot it off a lot. You know, test it out on another piece of paper if you want. And then you just want to be applying just a little bit of this white pigment ink with each tap. It's almost like you can't even see it unless you tap it down like 20 times, okay? And that's kind of the consistency you want. But look at that right there. See that little fog in there? What kind of atmosphere that brings to the piece? We have these trees up here. Okay, these overhanging tree limbs. Now, I don't want to tap over my black area that I just stamped out, but remember that green right there is on the other side of the vellum. So I'm going to bring in some light into those impressions. It's really light in there. This is like a really subtle type of thing to do, but you can add a little bit of value variation into like these leaves. So like in the bottom of there, I didn't go up here too much, but you can bring in some kind of illumination into those leaves. So it's like this soft light on some of those leaves right in back in there. So I just tapped a little bit right in here. And see these trunks right in here? Let's do this. Let's do this little passage of kind of mist right through here maybe. So let's go with a little bit in here. Now I am tapping the white over ink right here because this birch tree is stamped on the front of the vellum. Okay, it looks like it's no problem. It looks like it's completely dry here. So I'm not having any problem with that right there. So see that right there? It brings in that lighting into the scene. So I added it right here and down here. So it's like none of it right here. So you kind of oscillate it a little bit throughout your pieces. And let's check out this right in here. I think I'm going to leave these two just as is, just again for whatever contrast variation in here. But see, this tree right in the background is more distant, and let's take a look and see how this looks right back in there. Like that, so it kind of pushes it back in the distance a little bit more now. This tree looks like it's standing out a little bit closer to us. I'd like to do some over that tree right there, but if I do that, I'm going to be putting it right over the top of this like twig, you know, this little sapling coming up right there. So maybe nothing right there. I don't know. I'm looking at this. I do want to soften up that a little bit, I think. We'll just put a little bit right there, like that, like that. All right, so I think that, see that right there? I just softened it up. I just knocked it back like, I don't know, instead of like a, like 100% black now, maybe it's like a 92% gray or something like that. So nothing like too extreme. Let's make a couple little areas here a little bit lighter, just to create a stronger relationship between this mist and the background cloud. If you get anything from this, just look, I'm just adding a little bit at a time, and I look at it, you know, I went on to these other areas, and I'm just adding another like 2 or 3% at a time, you know. I don't do like this big, thick application with this at one time. And plus, I have to kind of see what it looks like when it dries a little bit too, because it can look different from when it dries. It usually gets a little bit darker and more see-through, so, you know, which is kind of good because it gives you time to adjust it. If it got lighter the more that it dried, you know, then, you know, that's not so good because it would be hard to make an assessment of how much more to add, where you can always add more. Like salt in cooking. All right. Hey, let's do this thing too. I hadn't really thought about it, but see this, like this tree trunk in the background is against this like really light cloud. I'm just going to add some of this right over the top of that whole, or I don't know, like a good portion of it right there. And this one, maybe 2. So kind of like playing a little game of like push and pull, you know, you add a little bit more of this and it kind of pushes whatever you're putting it over a little bit more in the background. All right, I think that is it with that. Yeah, this piece came together pretty well. You know, I really had to watch my video. Like I said, I couldn't even remember what ink I used on it, on Vellum. But we had to mix it. You know, we had to, you know, mix it up a little bit because of the you know, those original trunks. I didn't want to wait for that those background birch trees to dry, but they worked out pretty good. Those background birch trees, you know, coming out more of like a 70% gray, which surprises me again because I don't know. I just imagined the solvent ink drying on there really fast and adhering to the surface. So I thought that would be the stay zone to be, you know, nice and black, but it wasn't. Okay, some additional foreground in here. I didn't think it needs it, but you know, we're playing around with a lot of depth here. So let's go a little bit more of a deeper space. So it's just adding something crisp right into that foreground area like so. Okay. And get a lot of layering in there. We'll get it overnight to dry. And then, like I said, I need to trim this up a little bit around the edges where it didn't match up completely. The vellum to photograph right here, and then I'll mat it off with something, and that should be pretty good. But vellum pieces, it's pretty fun stuff to play around with, especially if you have anything that you want to cover up and anything that might be kind of harder to cut out a mask for, or kind of a hassle to cut out a mask for. So in this case, if I wanted to do this, and if this was all on the surface of this background cloud, I would have had to have stamped out these trees right here, cut out masks for them and put them in there, then stamp out these other birch trees over the top of that, and then mask those out, and then like stamped out some clouds in the background or something like that. You know, that's not something I'm going to really do. So this and this takes care of that. I guess it's kind of like doing like those frisks, like those painted frisks. They have this kind of thing that you paint over things that you know you're going to want to mask off, and then it's a removable, you know, frisk paint thing. It's almost like painting on like from what I remember, like rubber cement or something like that, and it just kind of peels right off, you know. That, I mean, I could see doing that, but I think this is like so much, I don't know if this is easier, but I don't know. Same type of process, so it's like nice and fast. Let me see. So this is 1.5 hours here. All right, so, you know, I don't think this is a 1.5 hour card. If I kind of remembered on, you know, the entire process on how to do this, I can probably crank it out in an hour or something like that. But if I was teaching someone how to do that, because I'd know the steps instead of just kind of making it up as I go here. But yeah, the vellum that I'm using is just a really old pack, and I'm just using it because this is the one that I had around, but it's the Canson vellum. Right here, this is a 55 pound, which seems pretty good. I don't know if like a thicker one is better or a thinner one, you know. I don't know. Sometimes I think the thicker ones are better because it has more body to it and less prone to warping. But sometimes when I'm like spray sealing and adhering these together, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's better that it was thinner because it contours to the bottom easier. It's not just like this thick thing that's like warped. You know what I mean? A thinner one's like more prone to like lay flatter because it's thinner. So I don't know. And the thicker one might be more. It might block out more of the background that you're. I mean, I guess it would stand to reason that it'd be more in the scale of transparency, translucency, opacity. It would be more over here because it's a thicker piece of paper. I don't know. But I guess you wouldn't want it like super like thin though, because if you start painting the back of it, it's gonna completely curl up on you. So I would imagine kind of one of more of the mid-weight weights for the vellum. But if you have some vellum around, I would imagine, I would recommend giving it a try and seeing how it goes. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you remember that too, Sharita. Yeah, the no line coloring. Pouring rain. Oh my God. Is that good though? That's you probably like the rain though, right, Chris? During this time of year. What is this, like monsoonal rains then, huh? Send some of that rain up our way. It'd be cool to have some of it. I think it's raining in the mountains, though. There was like this huge cumulus cloud that I can see in our local mountains. They're about like an hour away from me, driving wise, But I think maybe we might be having some of that, like in Ansbarago and the mountain ranges, like Laguna Mountain out kind of our way, which is the Cleveland National Forest. But yeah, we want some of that. Send some of that pouring rain over here if you have some extra. And where they're fighting those wildfires, they can sure use it. Glad you liked it, Cynthia. Thicker, not better. Okay, there, Linda. Thank you. You confirmed it for me. So yeah, don't go with like 100 or like a 90 pound or 100 pound. Then try the mid weights probably. Like one of the things that I don't like doing on this vellum right here is when you saw it when I was like painting it in the background, it really started curling up on me. But the thing that I realized though, the more things that I added to this vellum as I went along, it seemed like it stayed flatter longer. I thought it would keep curling up on me. I keep kind of applying and then heat setting and applying and heat setting. I don't know. It seemed to kind of flatten out after a while. And one of the things that's really fun when you hit the vellum, when you do marry the two surfaces together, it's like, God, it's nice having this nice flat surface to work on again. Otherwise, you're kind of dealing with this rippled surface. And one time I tried to I was going extreme, in my experiments. So I went vellum stamped on the back and the front, I think, and then I used another piece of vellum. I don't know if I stamped them the back and the front, and then those two were adhered to a base, cardstock or something like that, because I wanted to see how far we can push it. But it was too much variation. I think I adhered that first layer of vellum to that paper, the background paper, and then I went with another piece of vellum. So I spray adhesive those down, and then I put another layer of spray adhesive for that second layer of vellum, and then that one was the one where it's like it was like air bubble city or something like that. I think I was actually there were trapped air bubbles, and it could have been, I think it was a half-page scene though too, which didn't help. But I think I was like releasing air bubbles by like piercing the air bubble with an X-Acto knife and letting the air out and then flattening it down. But I think I also ran into something where just later on as it sat around, I think I got like these ripples in it that developed or something. I don't know if it was that one or if it was on a different one, but then I don't know, I did something just to integrate those bubbles into the scene. Where it's like this three-dimensional thing. I don't know, I think for some reason, I think it was a snow scene or something like that. But like I said, when you're doing these smaller pieces like that, I've never had any kind of issue with air bubbles or anything like that. It's just too small of a surface. Just as long as you don't like lay this top vellum like just imagine this is and I'm just laying it like this. And then if you're like tapping it around here or there, you want to work it from the, the inside out or something like that, or you can kind of lay it down like this. But it just, I don't know, I don't have a problem with it on smaller pieces at all, so it should be easy to do. And like I said, I never get it kind of matched up completely. I'm off by like a 16th of an inch or an eighth of an inch. It's hanging out, one way or another. But then you just see this is like hanging over this way a little bit. Oh, like I said, the Shutterfly prints weren't exactly 4x6, so this is like hanging over right here and right here. So you just trim it together and make them nice and flush and square, before you do your mounting of the piece. So I'll have to figure out something to mount this on. So, okay, this one would be a good one too. I mean, if we are spending a little bit of time on something like this, so maybe I'll make, this on a mirror card would be kind of cool like that, or a reflection card like that. You can do that. This could be like water down here. And I would stamp out some additional things. This isn't 4x6. This is 4 1/4. So I'd match it. But we can add in some foreground down here, and then you can get kind of like double your money's worth on your efforts, because this is like matched up down that way. It'd be kind of cool to do like some kind of quote stamp in here again, with some foreground in here. I think that would be kind of nice. So anyways, different possibilities, at least with this composition, in terms of, if you want to do something further with it, in terms of a reflection card or something like that. So, I don't know. I'll figure something out with that. But anyways, that cloud worked pretty well. And again, if you're doing vellum stamping, vellum photo stamping, the ones with a little bit higher contrast would stand out a little bit more. Boy, this one would even have worked in there if I could have kind of arranged it where on this one that branch would have been, or that trunk would have been showing through. But that one right there, I think in the background could have worked too. It might have been weird not being able to see the sun, though, if it was blocked out. It's like, when is those rays coming out right there? But anyways, yeah, something like that, as opposed to, let me see, where are my lower contrast pieces? Like this one right here, there's like really low contrast in that. Well, I don't know. Yeah, like something like this. Okay. There's a little bit more higher contrast over here, but like that right there might be a little bit too subtle for vellum to show through. Let me see. Here's just a piece of square vellum. See like this right here? So you can see those clouds like that, but if you cover it up like that, there's not a lot of contrast. I guess there's enough, but it would be a lot more subtle. Remember, you'd have all the different things showing against it, so it does knock down, the contrast by quite a bit. I don't know. It's like a 80% whatever dark blue, and that changes it to, I don't know, like 40% or something like that. So just keep that in mind if you're, utilizing photos with your vellum, in terms of your selection of background. Just hold it up and see what it looks like before you, start using it, and see if it's going to, stand out enough to where it's, it's going to be a background that you're going to want to be using in there. All right. Okay, this one seems easy enough that I could do it. Oh, you can do that easy, Chris. Chris, I thought you did. Did you do some vellum before? I thought you did do some vellum. What did you use to adhere the vellum? Chris, do you have any kind of spray adhesive? So I just use the 3M, Super 77. It works for foil, foam, paper, metal, plastic, fabric, cardboard, and insulation. Now, I think I have seen some people do vellum before, and it's like, okay, I don't have spray adhesives, and I don't want to buy any, okay? So what they did was um, they take their glue, and I saw them where I think they diluted it a little bit, and they applied it with a paintbrush over their piece. I don't know if they probably didn't. They don't. You don't want to apply it to the vellum. I think the vellum was going to go like this, like completely curled up. But you apply it to the stiffer piece. So if you're applying it to the background of like cardstock or something like that, you're just going to paint it on. Oh no, no, no! What they did was they sponged it on. So they got some paint, and then they just got a sponge, and then they sponged all over their paper. Okay, giving it a nice even coat, but light coat. And then they applied their vellum over the top of it. I'm not talking about scenes or something like that, but just vellum uses in general, general card making. Just someone did that because when I started using the vellum, I think I started looking at other ways that people adhered the vellum to their cardstock, I think it was. And that was one of them that looked pretty good. And I think they did dilute it a little bit, their glue. So yeah, just I don't know. It was probably just like a kitchen sponge that they used for that adhesive. But the spray sealants, or and not sealants, but the spray adhesives. This really comes in handy. I can do probably. I was mentioning this in a video the other day. I think I can get. So something like this, I think I can get, I don't know what it is, but I think I can get 200 of these out of one can at least. Because you just lightly coat it. And someone said that their spray adhesive isn't sticky. There's repositionable spray adhesives as well, which you don't want. That would be more like for like photo layouts or something like that, where you have them, they're repositionable and you have them in those like magnetic sleeves or something like that. Or in the olden days, it's like for artwork layouts and stuff like that, where you can kind of move things around, which people just don't do anymore because it's all digital. But we used to have to do things like wax sticks and stuff like that, to make these different layouts, and or wax guns. Or I forgot what they called it, waxers or something like that. But those work pretty good. So this is going to get trimmed up, and when the black ink is completely dry, and then I'm going to use some spray adhesive on the back of this, and I'll probably do some kind of double mount on it. That's if I don't do a reflection card. All right, so your homework for this week is to do 10 of these vellum cards, and have those ready to go for the critique next Friday. Happy stamping. Thanks for checking out the Return to Vellum episode. I need to do more of these. Thanks, Sharita. If you're looking for some additional applications, Sharita, Vellum's fun. Vellum's fun too. You can do all kinds of things with it. Like I said, if you just want some kind of like thing that looks like more distant, you can just stamp on the back of them. It doesn't have to be scenes, but it's really fun to use. That play around with that translucent aspect of it, and the utilization of both the back and the front of your vellums for pieces is really fun to do. Thanks, Janice. Glad there's some good information for you to, in the videos. And I certainly had a good time, and fun time remembering just how to use Vellum. I don't know. I need to watch some of those other things that I did. I need to check it out. I don't know if I have a Vellum. I think I have. I think I have a Vellum playlist, by the way, on this channel. So if you go to the channel and you click on playlists, I think there's a Vellum one in there. So this one would go under all videos, Vellum, and photo stamping as well. So I'll get that added, and I'll come up with a fast version of this one too. I do the fast versions of the cards that I really like. All right, folks. Thanks for joining in. Thanks, Cynthia. Hope to see you in the next live, everyone. Thanks again.